Hi people and hello my Chilling Carnage crew, it's Chilly here, the man that produces Design from My Eyes, doing a 5-minute review on Queens of the Stone Age's newest album, Alive in the Catacombs. Queens of the Stone Age fans have been blessed with the unexpected news, of course, of a new live album, but not just any live performance in front of thousands of screaming fans. Instead, this record was performed in front of 6 million souls, with the quietest audience participation you will ever hear. If that's left you more perplexed than that time that you tried to wrap your head around a 50 million year trip on the downside up, then I'm guessing you are unfamiliar with the Paris Catacombs, which is where the band performed for their short 30-minute performance. So a quick history lesson about the most surreal underground gravesite to exist. Paris started a rock quarry roughly 1,000 years ago for their town, and eventually over time a sprawling city was built over these quarries. Then in the late 1700s they began having issues with dead bodies overfilling graveyards, which eventually led to the bodies being buried on top of each other, and eventually caving into these quarries that Paris even forgot existed. That was not only an issue for the dead bodies now flowing into the underground and the water system as well, but also for the structural integrity of many buildings. Eventually a team of engineers were led to investigate the state of the quarries under the city and also explore them, and that team was led by... Anyway, cutting a large bit of the story out here, but a decision was made that the bodies of the Parisians would start to be interred in the underground ossuary, including many older bodies. And so between 1785 until 1788, an army of daily funeral procession horse-drawn carriages would carry the bodies to their new resting place, but only at night to avoid unwanted attention. However, the bodies were so decomposed by this stage that they were just largely skeletons, and in true macabre fashion, their skeletons were placed in a manner to be visually striking and unforgettable to those that would bear witness. The catacombs are open these days to the public for special guided tours, and all the photos and videos that you are currently seeing on screen were actually taken by myself during my visit in Paris only a few weeks ago. Now, one of the more curious aspects about the catacombs is that the public section is a very small part of what is actually beneath the city, and in fact no one actually knows the full extent of the quarry's labyrinth beneath them. There are many stories of individuals who have gone in to explore uncharted paths and met untimely deaths, with one of the first being a doorkeep who unexpectedly came across an entry to the catacombs at his workplace and was not seen again for another 11 years until explorers stumbled across his body. To this day, many people explore these areas illegally, and thousands of videos can be found on YouTube detailing their experiences, ranging from the weird to the wonderful and the downright scary, where their tour guides robbed them and left them in the darkness only for someone to luckily come across them hours later and just rescue them. Now, I am sorry if this intro is very long and devoid of actual musical takes, but I think it adds to the element of intrigue surrounding this album and the air of mystique, because the history of music and the catacombs extends back centuries, with concerts as well. Now these days, music of any kind is not permissible under any circumstances in the public section of the catacombs, as Paris considers this area to be sacred grounds for the departed. But this hasn't stopped people from sneaking in and holding their own rave parties, heavy metal concerts, or even getting a full orchestra in there to perform funeral dirges and the likes for rich Parisians as they cheered and toasted with champagne. True story. Now this leads up to the present, and some 20 years ago Josh Homme took a tour to these catacombs to see these poor souls for himself, and he became enamored by the macabre experience. For years it always weighed on his mind that he thought this would be the perfect place to perform a small concert, as the acoustics were haunting yet beautiful under the right conditions. For years this idea rolled around in his head, and through the right connections he proposed this idea to the city, who surprisingly greenlit the idea after hearing how much respect was going to be given throughout the entire process. And so in 2024 the concert was recorded. Now I was rather unsure as to how this would work. I mean, I got the announcement of this upcoming release while I was in Europe, so it added another layer to my upcoming tour. No pun intended. But I wasn't sure what this was going to entail. Would it be an hour-long concert? What songs would they choose? Was it going to be purely acoustic or electric? It somewhat is, and yet it isn't. Some of the songs are reworked in a way to be acoustic performances, like with the first song, Running Joke Paper Machete, but they have also included an accompanying small string orchestra, which earns their keep for their version of Villains and Circumstances. Down and buried all I carry. I think one of the most memorable pieces on here has to be Suture Up Your Future, and it's an odd use of small and minimalistic electronic synth sections that play with the lone bass guitar that makes it strikingly different, with its starkly opposite sounds throughout the tune at the same time. Now I can't put my finger on the way to describe it perfectly, but it's almost unsettling when you're listening to it. Lastly, we have one of my favourite songs with I Never Came, and I thought this would be my favourite song off the album. While it is glorious to hear and an amazing closer for this record, it wasn't actually as good as the previous track, which surprised me to the point that this is still outshining I Never Came. What an amazing performance. It's great to hear all of these songs with the lone acoustics of the Catacombs as bones reverberate these instruments and voices, and water droplets can be heard in distant caverns. To stand there and give such a powerful performance to the Dead, this would have given the members of Mayhem a raging hard-on to be in their shoes. Well, actually any black metal band really. One of the most admirable things about this EP is that it is made up mostly of deep cuts, with many songs that you would rarely, if not ever, hear in a live setting. I appreciate the band doing this rather than playing a few of their classics, and I think this is a breath of fresh air to these songs. That pun was intended. Didn't it land? Ah, forget it, let's just get down to the score. Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 8.5 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being I Never Came, Suture Up Your Future, and Calypso. I am a sucker for this band. They are one of my favourite acts, but this is a very interesting take on songs that I've heard in a way I never could have imagined. Now, I must watch the video that accompanies this concert. Lastly, I want to say to the QOTSA fans out there, because this question surely will be asked until the heat death of the universe, what other tracks do you think they could have played on this album? Because I feel like Songs for the Dead might have been a bit on the nose, all things considered, but it's also a composition that would have been near impossible to reconfigure in a way for this setting. Anyway, comment below which song you would think would have worked under these circumstances, and as always, listen to this album for yourself and stay spicy out there. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.